Craig MacTavish just found a better-looking girlfriend, didn't he?
Well, this team is the ultimate bachelor, right?
Yeah.
5 girlfriends in 6 years. Guy tweeted me today.
Some would say they're a whore. Spec. Some would say they're a whore.
Guy tweeted today, he said, I've had the same car through 5 Oilers coaches.
Yeah. It's. I mean, we were talking about it earlier and how the consistency these days is lost. I'm not saying this is the wrong hire, but just to be going through this again with such a young team seems to be the wrong move. The question is Dallas Eakins worth it?
Well, that's the question, exactly. Look, you don't get to where the Oilers are, having to completely rebuild your organization from the ECHL up without having made a bunch of bad decisions, right? It's not just the coaches that they made poor decisions. I don't have to tell people who's followed the Leafs for the last 30 years. There's more than 4 or 5 decisions you make poorly that turn you into a lousy hockey club. And that's where the Oilers are, and you can lump a lot of the former coaching decisions and a lot of the poor drafts and a lot of the bad moves, they're all part and parcel to this. I think they feel like they've finally got their organization straightened out a bit. They got a proper farm team that's starting to deliver some prospects and is in the Final Four of the AHL every year. They've got some kids who actually have panned out. There's some good players in this lineup. They need some more.
Right.
And now they want the new GM comes in and says, this Ralph Kruger's not my coach. This other guy is. And I'll never blame a GM for hiring his own guy, because if I'm going down with someone, I'm going to go down with a guy I want, not someone else's guy.
Mark Spector joining us from Edmonton, where the Score will go at 3:30 Eastern time for the news conference to announce Dallas Eakins. The Score, Canada's home for breaking sports news, or at least that's what they're reverting back to. Mac T said he knew it wasn't fair to Ralph Kruger, but he felt this was for the betterment of the club, and that in the end he will be judged on that decision.
Yep.
Did he just put his rear end, to put it in a finer term, on the line?
Well, sure he did, but that's what you're supposed to do when you're GM. Like, I like a GM that says, I'm making the calls here. You may not like them. Judge me when the results are in.
Right.
Berkey was that guy.
Yep.
Berkey never hid behind a decision. He stood right out front of it, and I'm good with that. I'd rather have Craig MacTavish come out and say, doubt me if you want, I'm doing it my way, than, come in the side door on something like this and try to make some excuse and talk about all the things that are wrong with Kruger. I don't want to hear all that stuff. He's
right.
making his move. It's done. And we will judge him on the result. You betcha.
Oftentimes sports fans have become so accustomed to cliches. When a guy is actually honest to them, they rip him and tear him down. How are Edmontonians reacting to this honesty?
I don't think anyone is. Remember, this town is numbed to the coach's press conference, right? It's kind of an annual event here, so they're not exactly stopping traffic in Edmonton with this.
But it's a new GM doing this one.
It is, and put it this way: when MacTavish came in the door here a couple months ago, he said, I'm going to make some tough decisions here. Not everyone's going to like them, and we're going to have some turnover in our roster, and we're going to make, I'm in here to make tough decisions. So the fact that he's made this very first tough decision sort of stands him up as a guy that's delivering on his promise, right? He said it wasn't going to be pretty for a while, and there was going to be change, and this is what Oiler fan, I think, hopes is only the first bit of change in a whole bunch.
Mark Spector, senior columnist and hockey analyst for Sportsnet, joining us here on Tim Sid today.
Tim Sid.
Yeah. Eakins was in the business of developing Leaf prospects. Did the Leafs just lose their best prospect?
Well, that's a good question. I think the people in Toronto can tell, Leafs fan can tell Oiler fan more than anybody if they're getting the right guy. And I thought that the trend in Toronto of sort of sending down the NHL players like the Jake Gardners, for instance, and bringing up the Mike Kostkas, spoke pretty highly for the work Dallas Eakins was doing. Carlisle wanted NHL-ready guys, not guys who are going to be NHL-ready at some point. And Eakins was delivering them, was he not, on a fairly regular basis for Toronto?
Yeah, you're bang on. And the interesting part of all of this for Leaf fans, too, is I think eventually they're going to see whether it was Brian Burke stocking the shelves, stocking the pantry for Randy Carlyle, or Dallas Eakins turning this chicken poop into chicken soup for Randy Carlyle?
Well, that's a good. You can't turn a bad player into a good one just because you're a good coach. It's got to be. Berkey can't. You can't tell me Berkey's given Dallas Eakins a bunch of lousy players and he made them good.
Right.
It doesn't work for me. But
you put them in the position to succeed, and you never know at that level what confidence can do for you, right? Like Mark Frazier. Like, just there were so many of them that went
that
through.
McLaren kid I always kind of liked.
Yep.
Who's the kid from Edmonton? They had Mac Fratton.
Yeah.
Kind of liked his game. He did send pros up. You know, I think that's the thing with Eakin. He sent up pro players, and that I think we just hit on exactly what has to happen with the Taylor Hall, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Eberle, all these guys here, Justin Schultz, Nail Yakupov. They have to play like pros. Taylor Hall is he's going to be he might play in the Olympic team. That's how good he is. And if he doesn't play this year, he'll play the next one. Like, this guy's going to be an all-star in the league, I would almost guarantee you. But there's a lot of elements of his game where he doesn't play like a pro. He still makes the same mistake. He still coughs that puck up at center ice when everybody's going north and now the puck's going south. That's where Dallas Eakins needs to turn these kids into pros.
Speaking of former Toronto coaches and people who've been in the system before, what's the future of Steve Smith and Kelly Buchberger? And is Paul Maurice's name just being thrown around, or is there a real possibility of this?
Well, that's a good question. Paul Maurice did interview here for the associate coach job with Ralph Kruger. We all know how that worked out. This is another tough decision. Kelly Buchberger and Craig MacTavish go back, as you could imagine. They're like, they're Darryl Sittler and Ronnie Ellis, man.
Right.
They go way back and have, family, friends, vacation, the whole bit. These guys are probably best friends. MacTavish said, I asked him, what happens to your assistants? And he said, it's up to Eakins what happens, what assistants he wants to hire. He says, I hope we can hire we have room for the guys we have, but it's up to the coach. So when we talk about MacTavish making tough decisions, if he's got to make a tough decision on Kelly Buchberger, he's not faking it, because that'll be a tough decision for Craig MacTavish.
Mark Spector joining us here on Tim No Sid. Let me ask the final question of Ralph.
Tim No Sid, that's better than Tim on Sid.
Well, some would say that's what got him sick, Spec. Let me ask this about Kruger before we move on. 48 games. He's at his home in Switzerland on Skype when he gets canned.
Mm-hmm.
Did he get the shaft here, and did he deserve better?
I think everyone deserves better than a no training camp, 18 practice season with a young team in a lockout.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Of course he deserved better. There's no question about that.
So just timing screws him, or
the new GM comes in.
Yeah.
We always feel sorry for head coaches when a new GM comes in and they get fired. Our business is 10 times worse. How many times have I had a new publisher, a new sports editor? How many times have you had a new PD come in, and all of a sudden all these guys who've been doing a hell of a job are out?
Yeah.
Like, that's life, man.
Right.
I feel for the guy, and I feel for the radio jock who shows up at his all-sports station and everyone's wearing a cowboy hat, and he's looking around saying, country station? What? But that's life.